I sometimes find myself haunted by images from the distant past. Imagine over 10,000 bones, all from the same species, discovered in one place. It speaks of a catastrophe, something sudden and overwhelming. It makes you wonder what those final moments were like. In this video, I want to explore some of the most striking dinosaur fossils ever found, remains that hint at violent, mysterious, and sometimes shocking ends. Let's start with the Centrosaurus, a medium-sized herbivore that lived during the late Cretaceous period, about 76 million years ago. They moved in herds, a massive prehistoric life synchronized by centuries of behavioral evolution. But their story took a tragic turn in a place now known as the Drowning Cemetery. Weighing over 2 tons and measuring about 6 meters long, their group dynamic ultimately sealed their fate on that fateful day. What was once a floodplain near an ancient river in southern Alberta, Canada, became their collective grave. I can almost see the scene. Torrential rain transforming a familiar territory into chaos. Mud, raging currents, and despair. The saturated ground collapsed beneath them. Caught by surprise, the Centrosaurus tried to flee, but the mass escape only led to more destruction. Those at the front fell first, many trampled by panicked companions. Others were swept away by the flood, buried alive by the mud. Some, the younger or weaker, simply couldn't keep up. Death came swiftly for some, slow and agonizing for others. What remained was a tangled mass of bodies compressed under tons of flesh, bone, and earth. Then, with time, silence. Decomposition gave way to fossilization. Horror turned into geological record. Millions of years later, humans would excavate that soil with brushes and spatulas, revealing over 10,000 bones belonging to a single species in a single location. The scientists' interpretation was immediate. This wasn't the result of deaths over generations, but a single, sudden catastrophe that wiped out an entire herd. The uniformity of the fossils, the lack of erosion on the bones, and the absence of signs of predation confirmed it. Everything screamed urgency, desperation, tragedy. Now let's turn our attention to another dark story, one marked by pain, survival, and violence. Imagine a Triceratops Horidus, an animal more than 9 meters long, weighing between 6 and 12 tons, slowly walking across the plains of a lost world. With 3 sharp horns on its face and a protective bony frill rising behind the skull, this giant herbivore was one of the last dinosaurs to inhabit the Earth before the mass extinction event approximately 66 million years ago. Among the many fossils discovered, one stands out. What caught the paleontologists' attention wasn't just a well-preserved skull, but perforations located in vulnerable areas of the facial bone. But this spear wasn't metal. It was bone, the horn of a Triceratops. The scene begins to take shape. A close-quarters confrontation, a decisive strike, a hunting attempt gone wrong. The greatest terrestrial predator of its era became the prey. Bone fragments found around the puncture indicate the impact was deep. So deep that it pierced soft tissues, blood vessels, and likely the trachea. There were no signs of healing at the site of the wound, no attempt by the body to recover. The blow was fatal, or, at the very least, the direct cause of death. The fossil, discovered in 1997, was nicknamed Pex Rex, in honor of Louis Peck, the owner of the ranch where it was found. Pex Rex has fascinated scientists and the public alike because of its story, its end, and its silent message written into every fracture, every shattered bone. Dinosaurs buried alive. In many parts of the world, paleontologists have unearthed dinosaur cemeteries, skeletons tangled together as if the animals died trying to escape. And that's exactly what happened. They tried to flee, they tried to survive, but there was no time. Sandstorms, violent floods, mudslides, sudden, merciless natural forces that transformed the landscape. Those who lived there were swallowed alive by the very environment they once called home. These fossil sites reveal something rare: moments of prehistoric life frozen in time, not in isolation, but in community. Entire dinosaur families, from juveniles to adults, preserved side by side. Their deaths bear witness to an instant of collective panic. These were not natural deaths, isolated or spread out over time. They were sudden events, catastrophic moments when nature turned against its own children with devastating fury. In China, within the Yixian Formation, entire groups of Psittacosaurus, small bipedal herbivores, have been found piled together in layers of volcanic sediment. All evidence suggests they were buried alive by ash from a sudden eruption. In Mongolia, sandstorms engulfed dinosaurs in mid-motion. Their poses, preserved within the desert, reveal final attempts to escape an inevitable death. In Madagascar, a mudslide captured an entire group of Majungasaurus, feared predators that, according to the evidence, had no time to fight back. They were crushed, immobilized, preserved. And what about discoveries in North America? In locations such as the Morrison Formation in the United States, the remains of Diplodocus and other sauropods appear grouped in patterns suggesting entire herds were wiped out at once by sudden floods. These sites allow us to see beyond death. They show us how dinosaurs lived, how they organized themselves into herds, families, and social structures, and how even in groups they were vulnerable to the power of nature. In the petrified silence of time, when the world was still ruled by gigantic reptiles, a tragedy unfolded beneath the darkened skies of ancient North America. These bones belong to Pachyrhinosaurus, a gregarious herbivore whose head was adorned with thick bony bosses rather than sharp horns. It is not this animal's appearance that draws attention, but the way it died. Paleontologists carefully excavating a vast rock formation in what is now the Canadian territory of Alberta encountered a macabre scene. Dozens of Pachyrhinosaurus fossils stacked atop one another, with bones crushed and fractured. I'm haunted by the image of dozens of tons of flesh and bone becoming an instrument of death. The fossils tell a terrifying story of a herd in a frenzy, running chaotically. Some would fall, others stumble over their bodies. The combined weight would crush the weakest. The fossils of Petrinosaurus paint a picture of a peaceful herbivore with complex social behavior. They seemed to have cared for their young, maybe protecting them in defensive circles, like modern elephants. But no defensive formation can withstand panic. The fractures on the Petrinosaurus skeletons were striking, not from a sudden fall or predator attack, but from a stampede, an intense and prolonged force. Compression marks suggest the animals collided in panic, desperately trying to flee. Some even survived for a time with broken bones, showing healed fractures. However, others bore signs of acute, lethal trauma. The microfractures reveal that the force didn't come from above, as in a landslide, but from all directions, compressed within a living mass of desperation. Paleontologists call this herd death, a natural catastrophe that paradoxically preserves fossils so well. Then there's the Carnotaurus, the meat-eating bull, a feared predator of South America from 70 million years ago. One fossil revealed a mystery hidden in its jaw, a significant, unhealed fracture. This break compromised the entire side of its mouth, affecting its ability to hunt, feed, and survive. The severity was clear, a severe rupture in the lower jawbone that would have caused extreme pain. The absence of healing was a warning sign. The fracture was raw, as if it had occurred shortly before death, leading to a grim hypothesis: starvation. Unable to fully open its jaw or apply the force needed to kill prey, the Carnotaurus may have wasted away. Imagine the suffering. Every attempt to bite sending waves of pain through its body. Each step slower, more hesitant. A predator transformed into a shadow, pushed out of territorial disputes, abandoned by prey, perhaps even its own kind. And then there's the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the tyrant lizard king of the Cretaceous. A fossil discovered in Montana revealed something fascinating and unprecedented. Bite marks on its own bones, made by another Tyrannosaurus Rex. These tooth marks match the robust, widely spaced, deeply penetrating dentition of another tyrannosaur. It forces us to reconsider everything we thought we knew about their social and feeding behavior. Was it cannibalism? A fierce territorial dispute? Or a meal where opportunity outweighed any social restraint? Tyrannosaurus Rex measured 13 meters in length, nearly 4 meters tall at the hips, with a jaw capable of exerting up to 6 tons of press. It wasn't merely a predator, it was a bone crusher. Its banana-shaped teeth could crush not only flesh, but bone. I've held fossils in my hands that tell stories more gruesome than any horror film. Imagine teeth, not just scraping flesh, but grinding bone. Those very teeth, belonging to a Tyrannosaurus Rex, left their marks on fossil remains discovered in Montana. The bite marks are unmistakable, etched into the skull, jaw, even the arms and legs of the unfortunate victim. In some instances, the impressions are so deep and clear that they reveal the precise moment another tyrannosaur's teeth met the bone, tearing away flesh and splintering pieces of the carcass. For paleontologists, these details are like a time capsule, offering a glimpse into behaviors that textbooks alone could never fully explain. But what does it all mean? Was Tyrannosaurus Rex actually eating its own kind? And if so, why? The most widely accepted hypothesis points to opportunistic cannibalism. In the wild and unforgiving environments of the late Cretaceous, food scarcity could have driven even the largest predators to consume the bodies of their dead. It's not unprecedented in the animal kingdom. Crocodiles, sharks, and even bears sometimes resort to cannibalism when circumstances demand it.